Big changes are coming for some Texans who currently work from home.
Do you imagine that if those employees were not working from home but were in the office, that y'all could operate more efficiently?
State lawmakers and the governor asking questions about remote work, why the pressure could push many state workers back to the office. A Texas House committee has the goal of delivery of governmental efficiency. We look closer at what the power of the Texas DOGE committee actually has and how it's different from DOGE in D.C. Tears and tributes at the state capitol.
He was my advisor. He was my mentor. He was my personal hero.
Lawmakers honor one of their own after a congressman's death leaves a vacancy in Washington.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Dylan McKim. Last week, workers for several state agencies received emails about changes to work-from-home policies. The office of Governor Greg Abbott confirmed that state agencies will review policies and bring workers back to the office, quote, where possible. Multiple state employees have reached out to us asking if they have to go back to work in the office for their respective agency. None of them wanted to speak to us on camera in fear of retaliation, so we went looking for answers for them. There are more than 100 state agencies. We reached out to 32 of the biggest ones. Hi, good afternoon. Searching for what's next after a spokesperson for the governor's office said, quote, with remote federal workers returning to the office where possible, it's important that state agencies ensure they do the same. An employee with the Texas Workforce Commission confirmed the agency wants everyone back in the office full-time by the end of March. And Thursday afternoon, we confirmed multiple agencies like the DMV, State Health Services, and Health and Human Services sent emails to staff about plans to bring everyone back in the office. But other agencies say they are still reviewing policies. For some agencies, like the teacher retirement system, it won't be easy to make everyone come back to the office.
Representative Alders.
In the first ever DOGE hearing, lawmakers asked the agency's executive director about its remote work policies. The 1,200 employee agency says more than half of them are working 1 to 2 days from home.
Do you imagine that if those employees were not working from home but were in the office, that y'all could operate more efficiently?
We have not seen a dip in operating efficiency with having those employees have a day or two being able to work from home.
The director did say he would bring employees back to the office if told to do so, with the exception of the about 300 telephone counselors who work outside of Austin.
I would much like to prefer to have my telephone counselors stay at home.
A survey of multiple agencies in November show remote work helps many agencies with retention and recruitment. A new bill referred to the DOGE committee would give agencies the discretion to allow certain employees to work from home. This comes as a bill filed in the state legislature takes aim at where state government agencies are located. The bill, drafted by Senators Mays Middleton and Charles Perry, proposes physically moving the headquarters for certain agencies out of Austin.
You know, for a long time, I've had this idea of, well, why not, move them to lower cost real estate around the state?
Middleton says his plan could save taxpayers millions and create job opportunities in different parts of the state. Others are skeptical and point to the difficulty and cost of relocating agencies and their workers. That was one topic at the first meeting of the new Delivery of Governmental Efficiency Committee in the Texas House. The DOGE committee is supposed to curb fraud, waste, and corruption at the state level, but what power does it actually have? Capitol reporter Adam Schwager found committee members are still working to answer that question.
Perhaps you've heard of it.
DOGE.
The federal government's Department of Governmental Efficiency has garnered praise and protests. Now, it's being brought to the Texas House in the form of the Delivery of Governmental Efficiency Committee. 8 Republicans and 5 Democrats tasked to
reset the state government, put it on a diet, if you will.
Between layoffs and resignations, Elon Musk's DOGE has likely reduced the federal workforce by over 100,000 people, something state workers in Texas are keeping a close eye on.
Anyone who cares about their local library, anyone who cares about their public schools, anyone who cares about public universities, this is something we need to care about.
Those public employees have reason to be suspicious.
it can't be seen separate from the larger push to, again, downsize the size of the state government, similar to what DOGE is doing at the federal level.
One key difference between the DOGEs: at the federal level, DOGE acts like an agency, avoiding the legislative process. In Texas, DOGE consists solely of legislators, with state representatives from both parties contributing.
At the national and federal level, it certainly does look like layoffs and cuts, and I am hoping that it won't go in that direction.
After their first meeting, where they laid out the stated mission of eliminating waste, fraud, and corruption, it still remains unclear the exact approach they take, as
we'll be looking at using scalpels in our, and we'll also be able to look at sledgehammers. We're going to look at everything, and we're going to do this with bills, we're going to do it with legislation, and we're going to do it with investigations.
For State of Texas, I'm Adam Schwager.
The Texas House has already referred nearly 30 pieces of legislation to the DOGE committee, including a bill to add restrictions to state employees working from home. And flags at the Capitol flew at half staff for a few days last week in honor of a Texas congressman. Sylvester Turner died Wednesday in Washington. He was 70 years old. Turner dedicated his life to public service. He was elected to Congress last year after 2 terms as the mayor of Houston. Before that, he served for decades as a state representative. On Wednesday, former colleagues at the Texas Capitol paid tribute.
His legacy is one of tireless advocacy. He represents a fierce commitment of justice and relentless drive to improve the lives of those in need.
Sylvester was more than just a colleague for me. He was my advisor. He was my mentor. He was my personal hero.
On Thursday, the Texas House approved a resolution to allow Turner's casket to lie in honor at the Texas Capitol. That will happen next Thursday and Friday. Turner was just 2 months into his term in Congress. It's up to Governor Abbott to call a special election to replace him. Until then, the Houston area congressional seat will remain empty. A vote at the Capitol aims to boost efforts to find a cure for dementia. The new approach from Texas lawmakers that could ask voters to make a multi-billion-dollar decision.
We can make sure it's safer for not only the people that are going to the hospital, like our patients, but also all employees. I think it's a good thing to be doing.
Widespread support so far at the state capitol for legislation that would require security barriers to prevent crashes at hospital entrances across Texas. But see why not everyone thinks the measure is a good idea.